Yeah, dear viewers, we are going to discussing about mountains. In the part of a mountains, as we know, the mountains it is occupying the high lands or hill areas. So, the mountains it's various types of mountains will be forming due to the igneous activity or sedimentary formation. Igneous activity means almost the igneous formations volcanic due to the volcanic activity. So, due to that volcanic activity some of the hills will be forming. The second one it is glacial formation of glacial activity. Maximum how ice or cold areas, I mean ice particles which are joined or it leads to formation of a hill areas, that is a one type of activity. Okay, anyway, the finally we come to know that the mountain it is occupying, or we will see morphologically it is occupying highlands within a small areas. So that in the study of mountains we can see the different words. There are different types of terms also we can use, like example for quadrilla and system, range, group, chain, and etc. we can use. What it is a quadrilla? Here the mountain systems which are actually independent as per age wise or region wise or origin, maybe it is whatever it is there. Sometimes maybe it is a formed as a group, or sometimes maybe it is a formed in a rows, and it has a parallel height also. Those parallel height or rows, if it has a similar group or similar chain, such type of mountains it is called as a chain mountains. Chain, it is called as a chain mountain. Then suppose the combination of a chains or a combination of a systems or a combination of a ranges, very rarely we can see these type of mountains. Those formations are called quadrilla formations or quadrilla mountains. So, mountains which are formed in the result, I mean how they are going to form the mountains. The mountains sometimes what is happening, the tilted moment or folded structures or folded formations which are produced by the formation of a faults. Okay, folded means bending nature, tilting nature, which have been identified in a rock formations. But I am using here the producing of a by faults also. Fault, it is a one of the major structure in a geological formations. Fault, it is a displacement between the two rock formations. So that while it is always the earth it is rotating, we know that suddenly some shocks will be occurred in the internal of internal structure of a earth. Then what is happening? I told you that plates, the plates always it is rotating. Then sometimes maybe which are having the collision from one plate to the another plate. Then suppose the strong plate whatever it is rotating very rapidly, then if it is collision to with another, then what is happening, the on the another plate we are getting the small cracks on a surface. So, again the plates always rotating, we know that. So, while it is rotating, the small cracks were formed, or it is leads to formation of a fractures. The fractures which are slowly it is deviating or dividing from one to another, the major fracture will be formed. So, some gap was formed between the two plates. So, the gap it is known as a fault here. Now, simply the displacement of between the two plates it is known as a fault. It is known as a fault. So, now we can use here that word, while it is a formation of mountains, there is what is happening, Due to this is a divergent movement, then one plate it will become top side and another one it will be go inside. So, automatically it will be increase the height. So, there may be a chance to formation of a mountain, that is also one chance. Then the great mountain belts which are griddling to the earth surface, and while it is origining primarily, and again the major disturbances will be occurred within the rocks, and the major disturbances will be occurred in a bedrocks. So, that which are all the causes to formation of a mountains. Especially we call that is as a orogeny word here. The orogeny, it is giving the meaning to building of a mountain, how the mountain it is going to be constructing, we will study in a orogeny. Yeah, mountains formed by the process of deformation of crust, and most of it is illustrative some of the puzzling features within the earth or earth surface also. The mountain building activity, it is known as orogeny. That is simple definition. What is orogeny? Orogeny means it is a mountain building activity, or it is a constructing the mountain. The process it is known as a orogeny. The areas where these activities which are take place, it is known as orogenic belts. Suppose example what I told you, that is it will be occur in a plate tectonics. Plate tectonics. In a plate tectonics, the belts will be arranged. Then due to this momentum or the rapid momentum which are occurred in this plate tectonics, they will be divergent. The process of a divergent, the two plates will be divided there, the gap will be formed. So, then the belts which are getting the disturbances. So, now it will be the starting process, and it will be the first steps for construction of mountains in that case. So, orogenic movements, it is a definitely, or it is a essential in a earth's crust, and the moment it is a tangential moment which occurred, it is as a tangential moment. Classification, how we can classify these mountains? Yeah, mountains will classify on the basis of origin, and it has a 5 types of mountains. One, it is a relict type of a mountain, or it is called as a circumdenudate type of a mountains, or sometimes we are calling it is as a residual mountains also. It is known as a residual mountains also. How they will form? These type of mountains will be formed due to the differential erosion. Differential erosion means stage wise it is getting the eroded from the original rocks. So, finally, it is remain as a residue. So, that is the reason it is these type of mountains are called residue mountains. Yeah, second one, it is deformation type of mountains, or tectonic type of mountains. These can be divided again into the fault type, what I told you, like plate tectonic boundaries. The plates always which are rotating, and sometimes maybe some are having the rapid rotation and which are collision to one to another, and it will be going inner side of first one. So, automatically the gap it will be created. So, the gap it is called here fault. So, this is slowly it is going to be developing as a mountain. So, that is a one reason. So, these type of a mountain it is called as a deformation type of a mountain, and especially fault type mountains will be also there here. The fault type means this one, where it is weekends or weak places will be available on rock surfaces slowly, which are getting the pressure, and then they are deviated, or they are getting the fractured, and they are separated into two blocks. within a rock. So, that is also one of the cause to formation of a fault type of a mountain. And sometimes what is happening, the raised part, whatever part we are calling, that is as a horst, and depressed area, whatever it will be go into the inner side, that part it is known as a graben. Maximum or majority of the Himalayan ranges, in their present structure, we know that thrust faulting, based on these thrust faulting, the Himalayan mountains were formed, particularly in eastern side. Then second one, it is a fold type mountains. In a fold type of mountains, what is happening, the fold activity will be happening, various types of fold formations or fold structures will be noticed. They are like accumulation of sediments in a subsiding geosynclines, and second one, it is these sediments are subjected to the lateral pressure due to the tangential movement. I told you almost these orogenic formations will be occurred in a tangential movement within the earth. Third one, it is upliftment of these sediments to form folded mountains. Yeah, upliftment means these will be moved, raised to towards sky, towards top. So, the process, the word it is called as a upliftment. Thus, what is happening inside of these structure, the sediments will be there, the sediments will be there. So, the upliftment process will be occurred in that sediment, and then the finally folded mountains will be formed. And one more, it is a accumulation type of a mountains. In a accumulation type of a mountains, here we see the volcanic eruptions, they will take a place, the material maybe it is a solid or liquid, the lava it is given to outside. Then the volcanic products heap up to the farm, and volcanic mountains or volcanic mountains which are known as accumulation. Here accumulation process, due to the accumulation process, the mountains will be formed with volcanic activity. So, that is called accumulation of accumulation type of mountain. That means volcanic activity, mainly here volcanic activity will be occur here. So, these volcanic or these accumulation type of mountains, we are calling it is known as a volcanic mountains. It is known as a volcanic mountains. Then dome structure, some mountains will be seen in a dome structure. In a number of regions of the mountains which are occur in a irregular groups or irregular formations or irregular shapes also. What is happening in central area, it is a composition of intrusive rocks. Intrusive rocks may be, that is granites, I mean granitic terrain. Suppose example, one granite boulder will be formed in the top side, then the other side the sedimentary rocks will be forming, or sedimentary formations will be, so that it is look like as a umbrella, look like as a umbrella. So, it is look like as a dome also, because of the mid part it is occupying the hardened part, the hard material, that is a igneous rock formation will be there, and the surrounding area it is occupying by this sedimentary, it is very soft material. So, that is a reason it is forming. That means here the sedimentary formation it is giving to the strengthen to that one. So, it is looking as a umbrella structure, and it is looking as a dome structure formation. So, such type of mountains are called it is called as a dome mountains. And one more, it is mountains on the sea floor. Yes, just suppose if you can see in mid oceanic mid ocean areas or mid of the oceans, we will see the different rock formations, how they were formed, their rock formations. Due to the 100% it is also volcanic activity only. Suddenly in the mid of the oceans, the volcanoes will be occurred there, then what is happening, they were getting the rapid crystallization. So, it is a look like they were getting the rapid crystallization. So, it is a look like formed as a hill. So, these type of formations we see on the sea floor, we will see on the sea floor. The mountain ranges are known, it is exist on the sea floor of a sea. Then the greatest of these it is mid Atlantic ridge, which winds the mid Atlantic from Iceland almost in Antarctica area. Yeah, mountain building or mountain building activity, how the mountains were formed or orogeny. The term I told you, that is orogeny. Now, we know that commonly to know that the rocks were formed with a great amount of rock formations which are participated in the formation of a mountain systems or mountains, and these are the correlation or related with sediments with some mobile zones. Those mobile zones are called geosynclines. Those mobile zones are called geosynclines. So, here these geosynclines, again it is divided into the three types. One, it is a monogeosyncline. The monogeosyncline, it is conceived by Hall and Dana. They were famous and familiar scientists. They were explained about monogeosynclines. This type of mountains or this type of geosynclines we will see in a Appalachian mountains of North America, which are having the very narrow and water basins, very narrow and water basins. That means, between the ocean or between the water bodies, these type of monogeosyncline formations will be seen. And second one, it is polygeosynclines. In a polygeosynclines, the water areas, I mean particularly the border areas, we are not able to identify. We see in a monosynclines, definitely we will able to identify the border areas, but here it is not. The Rocky Mountains of geosynclines are typical examples for this type. And third one, it is mesogeosynclines. In a mesogeosynclines, whatever the first two monogeosyncline and polygeosynclines are different from this one. It is almost it is related to the ocean basins and the border areas of continents. The border areas of continents. So, between that areas, these type of mesogeosynclines were formed. The first one, monogeosynclines, completely it was formed in a water bodies, and single formation was there. In polygeosynclines, a number of monogeosynclines will lead to formation of polygeosynclines, and then the final third one, it is mesogeosynclines. It is border, particularly the bordered area of a ocean basin, and again the border area of a continent, whatever continent. So, between that area, these type of basins, these type of mountains will be formed. The origin of orogeny, maybe it is explained. That means, the current events whatever we know. Suppose if you wanted to know the area of geology. So, what I will do? Just I will take the simple piece, or I will take the sample from that piece, and I will do the examine, and then finally I will do the isotopic dates. I will get the information from that rocks, and at the same time along with that we will get the ages of those water bodies also here. So, the current events, based on these current events, we know the what about previous what was happened, those also we will able to identify. And again one more thing here, it is the moment of a plate tectonics, how they were moved and how they were formed, those are also we can able to identify with the using of this one. Yeah, now we see there are various mountain ranges in our Indian continent. What are those? The mountain ranges of our Indian continent. India, it is broadly divided into three physiographic divisions. One, it is peninsular India, second one it is extra peninsular India, and third one it is Indo-Gangetic alluvial plain. These three, just you can imagine in our Indian subcontinent in our mind. Just you see here in a peninsular India where we will identify these type of mountain ranges. Yeah, definitely we can identify it is almost nearby the Rajasthan area. In the Rajasthan area, we will see, just you can imagine the Rajasthan area. We have Aravalli mountains, and again the beside of that we see the Satpura and Vindhyan. These two maximum, these two which are occupying in the mid of our Indian continent maximum almost. Then second one, it is extra peninsular India. The extra peninsular India, these are mountain formations we see. It is as a wall, we are calling as a wall to our Indian subcontinent, in particular in north, exactly north part to up to northeastern parts. Those mountain ranges are called or belongs to the extra peninsular area, that is a Himalayan. It is a Himalayan. So, then third one, it is Indo-Gangetic plain here. What is the in a Indo-Gangetic plain? It is an inclusion of a plain area. It is a inclusion morphologically, it is a inclusion of a plain area of a Ganga river. So, these three types of mountain ranges we will have to identify in our Indian subcontinent. Yeah, is there any involvement of geological processes? Yes, definitely we can say here it is involving the geological processes within the earth. The processes mainly it is diastrophism and igneous activity. It is depend on the diastrophism and igneous activity. There are various igneous activities, like example for volcanic eruptions and mountain building processes. Along with that, some of the earthquakes also will be playing very important role. Tectonic mountains are also called, it is a deformation of mountains or deformation mountains with subgroups as a fold mountain and fault mountains. Fold mountain and fault. I told you how fold mountains will be formed and fault mountains will be also forming. I told you that. Again, accumulation mountains are formed due to the accumulation of sediments with upliftment of subsidence, like umbrella dome structure will be forming here. Dome structure, how the dome structure I told you, that is also in the top level the granitic or hard material will be occupying, and then the beside it is a sediment formation will be there. So, that it is look like as a umbrella structure we are getting. So, it is known as a, it is accumulation of a two here, one it is a igneous rocks like a granite, and second one it is a sedimentation part. I mean sediments will be forming around the or surrounded by the granitic. So, here accumulation of two types of rocks will be there here. So, that is the reason it is calling as a accumulation mountains. Next one, volcanic mountains. Yeah, volcanic mountains which are formed due to the accumulation of volcanic products here particularly, but there is no involvement of other products. Yeah. Then complex fold mountain. The complex fold mountains are formed deformation of crustal movement. Different crustal movements will be occur. So, that these mountains will be forming. And again once the fold type of mountains, the fold type of mountains, again it is accumulation in the subsiding of geosynclines, and the sediments which are subjected to the lateral pressure it is occur. due to the tangential movement. And final one, it is upliftment of these sediments which are leads to formation of folded mountains. Majority, almost the majority of the Himalayan ranges, whatever it is that I told you that previously just now, fall type of mountains, almost all the fall type of mountains. Suppose I told you that the plates while they are rotating, then if suppose one plate, if it collision to the another, the first plate it will be move to top side, the second one it will be go into the inner side. So, the gap was created there. So, the here the gap was created, then the gap raised part whatever it is here, it look like as a ridge, it is a look like as a ridge. So, the look like as a ridge, the part it is known as a host, it is known as a host. What it is a host, we will ask. The plates while rotating, the raised part whatever it is, it has a ridge, the ridge it is called a host. Then the area it is creating as a basin, like a basin area, the depressed area, it is known as a graben, it is known as a graben. This is a fault momentum, and previously that is a fold type of fold type of a mountain, that is what we see. Almost here the dome mountains also similarly they will form, and sometimes maybe we get the mountains on a sea floor, spreading, there also we will get there also we will get a little amount of due to the volcanic activity, some of the mountains will be forming. In that case again we see the we have a scene that is monogeosynclines, it will be formed between the water bodies, and then second one it is polygeosynclines, and those will be also formed, but it is extend to that, extend previous to that of monogeosynclines, and final one it is mesogeosynclines. In a mesogeosynclines they will formed along the border of continent and ocean, here the process it is connecting with the mantle producing, it is connecting with the mantle producing, that's maybe geosynclines and geoanticlines here, synclines and anticlines. Synclines maybe it is like a depression shape or a depression form will be there, but in a anticlines it is like a dome shape will be seen, dome shape will be seen. And again the origin of a orogeny we can explain, or we will see with using of a two. One, it is a convection of currents, and second one it is a plate tectonic movement. The convection of a current means the present the current, the present how the plates were moving and how they were formed. In a second case, the plate tectonics, the plates how they are moving and how they are getting the divergent and the convergent, these two. In a divergent it is creating the space, in a convergent it is not like that. Finally come into the conclusion. Here we have different mountain ranges in our Indian continent, that what we have discussed. That is one, it is a peninsular India, extra peninsular India, and Indo Gangetic plain, all those as per that the Aravalli mountain chain we see, and Satpura Vindhyan mountain we see. So that finally the last one we see, that is a Indo Gangetic alluvial plain, it is a inclusion of a plain area of Ganga river.